A lie is where you willfully mislead somebody knowing that what you're saying is factually incorrect.
I think I lie very well for my profession.
What does a liar look like? What does a psychopath look like?
I just want to say, I hope there's a lot of criminals listening to this. We'll be picking up some good tips. Here we go again. Steve, welcome.
How you doing? You're looking well?
You keep saying that. That's so good.
Am I telling the truth?
Well, I guess it's a stage of a lie, isn't it, really? I am looking well, and then there's the silent bit comparatively.
Compared to
how I'll look 20 years from now, and I'm no longer here. Anyway, what a bizarre note to start on. So what I wanted to talk about today was, first of all, I keep getting a glimpse into your world, your world of policing, etc., and your ongoing world of exposing lies. And I'm trying to expose a little bit of the comedy world. One of the jokes that a lot of comedians make is about the self-serve aspect of supermarkets. Right? That it's petty crime, but it must be costing millions when people are saying, the grapes are like biscuits and dry biscuits and exchanging stuff. You know what I'm referring to?
I do, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah, and how so?
Well, I love the old days. I'd go in and you'd have some guy or girl scan the products and I'm out of there. Now I've got to do it myself. I never get invited to any of their Christmas parties. I'm obviously on the payroll, but I'm not getting paid.
Exactly.
And it takes forever. And the other thing that's really irritating me is sometimes I put my my contents on the wrong thing, and then you've got to call a salesperson out, and they come down, and it's just I don't know. It's just driving. Whatever happened to the old days where you drive your car to the petrol station, somebody would run out. Do you remember these days?
Oh yeah.
And fill up your car, check your water, all this sort of stuff. And now, we just do everything.
And just for an extra 10 cents, I'd say, let me have a sniff of that petrol. I don't mean like I'm a petrol sniff. It's a nice whiff. But you know what? I am old school like yourself. I prefer the checkout person, but I've compromised. And so I try and scam them. I try and convince them that grapes are, in fact, little dry biscuits, and I'm not for 10 at the moment, but I reckon I'll get there.
Well, the other day I went to buy some mangoes. I got this thing for mangoes, and anyway, I go there, and of course I got to go through the right category, and I see there's about 5 freaking different types of mangoes. So I'm looking at them; they all look the same to me. Yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to work out which one, and anyway, I did notice there was a slight price differential, and I looked at it and I thought, well, you know what? They all look the same to me. So, of course, I put in the lower priced mango.
Yeah.
I think it's $1 or whatever it is. So hopefully there won't be any arrest warrants for theft or anything like that. But, here's the problem. It was like the old days. Remember you jump on a tram and you had a conductor checking, tickets and all that sort of stuff. And then they thought, we're going to be more productive and cost effective. Yeah. We'll get rid of the the conductors. Now, I travel on trams occasionally, and no one, and I mean no one that I see swipes on or swipes off. So, and I'm not talking just in the city centre. And what I do see is eagle eyes looking out, waiting for those inspectors that jump on and off in groups, and then people doing runners. I would hate to imagine how much money's lost. But in the old days, we didn't have that because people would see the conductor and they'd think twice. Do you know there was a study done and they found that the average person, if there were no consequences of being caught, the average person, around about 75% of people that they surveyed, would take something if they knew they weren't going to be apprehended for it.
Well, it's good for me to know that I'm above average. And I'm cautious of this turning into in the old days podcast, but you're quite right. I wanted to do when people are on the tram and you get on the tram because people publicly recognise you as the human lie detector, and they probably just get up and pay when they see you get on the tram. They go, "My God, they've really They've really paid through the nose to get this investigator on here.
You know, just about every partner I've had, they always get the same, like especially if I'm doing a speaking gig, I'll get up there and they always get the same thing. It just must be hard for you, you to lie in front of him. And, like I switch off.
Yeah,
of
course.
course. I mean, many years ago, I went to a party in New York, actually. My mistake, New Jersey. And anyway, I didn't know many people there, but my manager was there. And we go in and for some reason, someone says, "Oh, that's the human lie detector. Test me. And I go, "Oh, here we go." And there's probably about 30 people in there. And the lady says to me, she goes, "I'm having an affair on my husband. Am I telling the truth?" And she looks over and I assumed it was his husband. And I thought, there's two ways this can go. First, I can say, well, let me ask you a couple of questions and let's look for content, information, structure, detail, hand-to-face masking, concealment, blocking behaviours, pupil dilation, all the stuff that I look for, and find out whether she's lying or telling the truth. Now, let's just say I just, on that one piece of information, drew a conclusion, which is not enough. I need data. And I said, she's telling the truth, but she's had an affair. Then they go, "Oh, this guy's useless. He sucks." But the other way around, if I said, no, she's lying, you're lying and you have had an affair, imagine the angst that would cause within that party. And, sometimes, you've got to weigh up what's the benefit or value of actually exposing the truth, especially when it's likely to hurt people.
Yes, exactly. And it was great too that you used a device there that in writing jokes, you used what I call an authenticator, which is you can actually make something sound more real by correcting yourself as you go. Because you said in New York, no, it was in New Jersey, right? And with an audience, that's a convincing thing. You must be telling the truth.
That's a very interesting point because often you'll find truthful people, when recalling a historical event, will self-correct.
Yes.
Right? Whereas a deceptive person who is actually making up the story on the fly has to fabricate, create and embellish, and that's really difficult to do. It creates cognitive load. So usually truthful people will self-correct because they don't want to make mistakes, whereas deceptive people just want to be quite vague and non-specific.
Yeah, you got your notebooks out, Crims? I hope you have. That's but it is, and it's one way that we because it's best to make jokes sound real, and that does involve lie seems a strong word for it, but it is essentially it's deception.
Yeah, but really, see, is it a good lie or a bad lie? I mean, to me, a bad lie is something that you engage in for negative consequences or, for reasons to hurt other people or to get ahead or whatever. Whereas in comedy, one would assume that, you're embellishing, but there's no malice or ill intent. Would that be a fair call?
Yeah, totally. It's, out to entertain. And what you're doing is you enhance their experience by them being able to believe it. Because I think my understanding is that we're always, no matter how much we suspend our disbelief, we almost must be on duty to detect deception because it could cost us our lives. I think there's a step there. Whoa, over the cliff you go.
That's a big step.
And it's a final step. And some would say if you don't hit the ground, you land in water, it wasn't a step at all. It was a dive. Anyway, I digress. So my whole raison d'etre, my whole reason for actually talking about that supermarket scam is it is a scam that a lot of people indulge in, and they kind of do it. The other one, the junior partner of that is eating grapes as you walk around the supermarket, right? And I think people kind of deem it not a crime. It's just like, well, I'm going to have to scan my own stuff when I get there. They can pay me.
Well, that's an interesting point. So, but under the Crimes Act, what we call points of proof for a theft is where you willfully and dishonestly appropriate property belonging to another with the intent to permanently deprive. So, and knowing that you're doing that. So if you eat the grapes before you get to the checkout, are you stealing them?
Yeah.
And some people would argue, well, maybe you are. As opposed to the trend at Bunnings where people literally go in and remove power tools and walk out. And a good friend of mine was working there, and he was ex-cop himself, and he was blown away at how many really high value items were walking out the door, and staff were scared of. And as you know, in Victoria at the moment, or not just Victoria, everywhere I guess, but swarming is a big thing. You know what swarming is?
Yeah. Do you want to tell people what it is?
So swarming is where you're running the store and there's about 3 or 4 staff and you get about 20 or 30 people coming in there and just literally helping themselves, and the shop assistant doesn't know what to do and not going to tackle them, and then they walk out with armfuls of products and white goods and whatever else. So I guess really when you think about it, the great grape debate that you've raised. I think we all do it, don't we?
I think so, but I think too that if there was a special unit of police that was
the grape police.
No, not the grape police, the Bunnings police, right? Who are trying to kind of reverse engineer and find out where these power tools are ending up. Right? I would look for places that have just been done up.
Yeah.
Right. Because
there's methodology in that madness.
Yeah, because they just go, interesting renovations. You didn't have power tools last week. This is why I'm not a cop, Steve.
Well, see, I like to look. I studied criminology, and I look at causation and that. But as you know, I've always been interested in behaviour. What moderates and regulates and controls behaviour? Let me give you a great example. A number of years ago, there was a marketing firm in the States, I believe, and they were selling soup, right? They wanted to see what methodologies they could use to improve the number of sales of these cans of soup. Anyway, it was around about 99 cents a can of soup. And what had happened was they put them at eye level and, they'd sell 1 or 2. Anyway, then they thought, okay, we need to see what else we can do. Then they changed the contents of the can, jagged edges and bright colours and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, all of a sudden, they doubled and tripled sales. The next day, what they did was they took it to the end of the aisle and they had these $1 cans of soup in a big barrel out the front. And it just had one word above it, special. Yeah. And they quadrupled their sales. Yeah. Then the next day, they did exactly the same, but they put special, maximum 3 cans, still $1 per person, and they got video footage of people buying 6 and 7 and 8 cans. Why? Because it's the perception of value. Yeah. So I think that a good way, CCTV cameras are used, but people still do home invasions knowing that there's CCTV cameras. So we've got to look at the behaviour and ways of changing behaviour, because at the moment we see here in Victoria a lot of these gangs are getting charged, but it's not changing their behaviour.
No, but there's no guile there. There's no deception really in swarming or in home invasions so much. It probably comes at the back end if they're detected. But there's certainly no deception other than maybe knocking on the door and pretending that you're in distress to try and get people to open the door. So it's crime, but it's not necessarily what we're looking at. I just before we go any further, I just want to get into what we're going to talk about this week. Before I do, just a point of business. We had a couple of queries come in from an Isla Richards from last week's show, and where we were talking about. Remember, we were talking about Ivan Milat.
Yep.
Australia's most prominent serial killer, and the first question was, I believe his perceived first victim was a taxi driver, Knight.
Neville Knight. He was a taxi driver, and Ivan Milat jumped in the back seat of the car, shot him through the seat. The bullet lodged in the spine, and he became a paraplegic as a result of the injury.
So right, paraplegic, but he survived.
Yeah, he did.
And probably survives to this day, right?
Well, I mean, as far as I know, there were two people that survived an escape. The other was the Dutch guy who was crucial in giving evidence how he escaped from Ivan Milat. And, of course, Knight was the first, who some detectives and initial investigators believed that he was potentially the first attempted thrill kill.
Right.
But didn't achieve.
And it was almost like a bit of research, wasn't it, to
well,
if I can be so callous.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem with serial killers, and especially Ivan Milat, is they're not all that upfront with their admissions and confessions. And as we know, he never, ever made any admissions to the day he died.
No, well, that's a major device in particularly TV police procedures and so on, is that the killer always admits what they did just to fill in the gaps. Otherwise, the viewers go, well, how did they do it?
Yeah, and see, make no mistake too, often it's a fact-finding mission for both parties. The person sitting in front of the detectives want to know what they know that could implicate him and show the involvement. So it's a fact-finding mission for both. I mean, obviously the detective, you'd have forensic, scientific, medical, cooperative, ballistic, all sorts of evidence. But at the end of the day, sometimes a confession is just the cream on top.
Well, they if they're trying to find out, so do they kind of question you back? Or try to?
Well, they do, but good investigators are not going to show their hand. And the purpose of a record of interview is to look for conflict or contradiction in previous relayed stories. And, if people stick to that story and they're making it up, and I'm interviewing, I say, well, where were you at 7:30 p.m. last night? I went to a friend's place. What was the name of your friend's place? Where did you go? What was the address? What time did you leave? What time did you get there? So I would be looking to corroborate or peel apart that alibi, looking for other types of evidence. Ping in your phone, see where you've been under tolls, where you've stopped and purchased things using credit cards and whatnot.
Do people do a lot of that no comment thing?
I think you find more seasoned crooks will often make a full no comment interview. But look, my view is I and a lot of investigators want to make sure you've got sufficient evidence that sometimes, it doesn't always work this way, but sometimes it really doesn't matter what they say. If you've got good, cooperative evidence, then, it's always great because then we can disprove alibis or, look for conflict or contradiction in previous stories.
Well, because I perceive problems, and I imagine that, say, if you were in a gang and your gang nickname was no comment, you would be in a lot of trouble because you would just be getting pulled in all the time because, they would say, well, why are you pulling me in? Well, your name keeps coming up. That's just how my brain works. All right, so, and there was the not so evil brother of Ivan Milat was Boris and Ivan. I mean, it's
you know who's missing? Natasha.
Boris and Ivan.
You're a very ugly man, Boris.
Yeah, you are a secret agent. Here we are, making light of horror. Anyway, Boris surviving still? Our friend Ilo obviously is concerned about the players.
Yeah, Ivan's passed away, as we know. Boris, I'm not 100% sure of. I think he may still be with us, but I'd have to Google that one.
Well, maybe one of our listeners can let us know as well. All right, so just to move it on now, the whole entree of this was me talking about the supermarket scam, because it is a scam that a lot of people are involved in. And, people learn these things. Kids try and find teeth just so that they can get the tooth money from the tooth fairy.
Mm.
But the end of that is one of the world's most massive scams was the Ponzi, was Madoff.
Bernie Madoff. Madoff.
What do you know about that?
Well, what I know is, when it comes to scams, this is a doozy. I mean, $65 billion. I'm not talking millions. I'm talking billions.
That's $65
billion of money was so you know what a Ponzi scheme is, obviously.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Okay, so basically, just for those people who have been misled about Ponzi schemes, it's where I say, listen, Brad, I've got a great deal for you, a great investment. So listen, you want to put in, I've got other people putting in, and then other people start putting in. And so I don't lose you along the way, you think, hang on a minute, you promised me 30, 40% returns on my investment. I'll just give you a bit of a drip feed of money back from the other investors, okay? But the problem is it never ends well.
Yeah.
And what happens is you start having to rob Peter to pay Paul, and all of a sudden you've got a lot of people. Now, not only did he rip people off to the tune of $65 billion, it ran for decades, literally decades. And why was he so successful? Because he appealed to the human emotion that drives us. Greed. One of them, greed.
Greed.
Yeah. And but get this, it involved major banks, celebrities, charities, hedge funds, but not only that, he fabricated trading statements. All the statements and the fake profits and the profit losses and all that were bodgy.
It's almost like a job.
Well, it would have been. See, and this is like what I said, previously. For every one lie you tell, you have to create more to protect yourself from the first one. So you get caught in that vortex, and sooner or later, see, Ponzi schemes have, at the end of the day, they will collapse. The only question is when.
Yeah.
They'll spiral out of control. So it collapsed in 2008 and wiped out life savings for thousands of people. It's the largest confirmed financial fraud ever exposed.
Did he have staff?
Yeah, he did. But he, really interesting though, he had staff, but they weren't allowed to go into certain areas or certain rooms in the office, which was where obviously all the information was. So, I mean, and this is the other concerning thing, is he ripped off well-known family members. His wife had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to rip off other people, but isn't it another thing to rip off family members that know and trust you? And I see
that as being very fair and very balanced and even and across the board. But
well, it depends how you get along with your family, I guess, doesn't it?
Well,
what about, and see, I mean, the scale was breathtaking, but we're talking about one individual. That's why this makes it so breathtaking.
Yeah.
But then you get other scams like in Malaysia, one of the biggest government level scams, and that was senior government officials basically siphoned off billions of dollars. I believe $4.5 billion, and money was spent on penthouses, art, yachts, and believe it or not, even financing the Wolf of Wall Street.
Wow. Yeah.
So
it was just and ironic. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got and we look at Westpac scams. There's another one, and it's not just Westpac, other banks that were charging people for services that were never rendered.
Yeah.
Not only that, they were debiting money out of accounts of people who'd passed away. So
why can't people see the deception? Because that's what we're about here. The deceit. I suppose you said with greed, but he's obviously meeting other conditions of satisfaction. One is to give you money, but also my understanding of the whole thing was there were constant rumours this is too good to be true. And so I imagine you're relaying fears as you go. You have to give some evidence. It can't just be the money. You've got to have good chat. Yeah. So what do people fall for?
Well, I think they fall for it because they see initial returns being astronomical. But
his wasn't. He measured his, didn't he?
Drip feed. Yeah. But the other thing that really blows me away about this is you're not talking about knuckleheads. You're talking about educated people. You're talking about business people. You're talking about celebrities. You're talking about people of high net wealth trusting someone else to invest some money. Me personally, if I'm going to invest, I'll invest my way. I always have a problem with using third parties to invest. I know I'm going to have every financial advisor in the country on me now, but at the end of the day, if I'm contacted and I've been solicited to when I haven't been looking for an investment. I want to do due diligence. I want to check. Because people can tell you whatever they want. At the end of the day, you need to look at past performance. This is the beauty of Google and ChatGPT. I can run a name through ChatGPT and bankruptcy checks and all sorts, band directors, all that type of thing. But people don't. They don't read the fine print.
Well, that's you talk about due diligence and financial advice. The only advice I take is when I'm in the newsagent, I say to the cashier, are these the winning numbers when I purchase my Tats Lotto ticket? And that's the amount of advice I get. They'll say probably. And in fact, to be honest, I happen to know this because I've straw polled a lot of people who work selling Tats Lotto, that the number one thing that drives them crazy is people saying, give me the winning numbers, because they just hear it. It's like the Chinese water torture all day. People go, they better be the winners, give me the winning numbers. And they're just standing there just going, it should be a silent transaction. You should not be allowed to talk. Just the same as when we're in Coles and I talk to that cashier and they ask me how my day is. I know they don't care, so I don't want them to ask me.
Yeah.
Because it's deceptive.
Mm. Well, you're 100% on the money there. Like, how often have you gone there? And it's a fake smile because the orbicularis oculi and zygomatic majors are not working together. So it's a false smile. So they don't care. If you're going to mock sincerity, you need to be pretty damn good at it.
Well, can we just, for those people who don't know the orbicular and orbiculi, and I'm one of them, could you just tell people what they are?
Yeah, so what happens is when we smile, Professor Paul Ekman did a lot of research into this, and he wanted to determine what the difference was between a real smile and a fake smile. Uh-huh. A real smile engages basically the corner of the lips, pulls it up towards the eyes, and you'll often find a little bit of wrinkling and creasing around the eyes, and the smile engages pretty much the whole face, whereas a fake smile usually engages from the nose below. Of course, that's Botox dependent,
yes,
where there is some movement left in the face.
You're calling me out, Steve?
No. Your skin is like nothing I've ever seen before.
well, thank you.
You're glowing.
All right, that's enough.
What about another fraud? Scam, look, a huge scam. Sam Bankman-Fried, largest crypto fraud, between $8 and $10 billion. Basically, customers' funds were misused and funneled into trading firm of Alameda Research. Now, it collapsed and triggered a global distrust in crypto exchanges worldwide. This is the problem we have with crypto. It's unregulated. Yeah, people are thinking they're going to make big returns. And, I bought crypto and I had $6,000 worth of crypto. It went up to $131,000 in the span of about 6 months. I thought, I'm going to have to sell that. Next time I looked at it, it was about $26,000. Oh. So and what drives that? What drives the market?
Greed.
Fear of missing out, greed, quick profits.
Do you know, crypto to me it's a mystery as to, why it sucks people in, because to me it's the old what's in the box. There's nothing there.
It's all hype.
It is kind of it's a kind of cousin of the Ponzi scheme, isn't it?
Well, yeah. There are some, crypto companies that are actually doing things in the world, and not just a theme coin or a meme coin, where you've got, Doge or something like that. Some of them, the only thing that's affecting the price is people, putting comments on social media. This is going to hit, like an all-time high of 5 cents or whatever. Now, the problem is a lot of them are pump and dump schemes. Yeah. So they'll pump them up, which, by the way, is illegal. If you did that here in the share market, you'd get a big kick up the backside. But once again, the crypto market's not regulated, and these pump and dumps happen all the time.
Yeah, look, I think too that there is an attraction to it. I feel like that a lot of the everyman or the every person sometimes feels like they're not excluded from the share market, but they're not necessarily welcomed into the share market. So it's kind of like an alternative for them. Here I can invest in something because even shares aren't real. I mean, I know that there's two reasons why people invest in shares. And one is dividends, and the other one is to increase.
Share value.
But if you invest in mining shares, you're not there in the mine doing anything.
No.
And it's just as airy-fairy as crypto.
But at least in the share market, I mean, you've got to run a company. It's a company. It's been, there is, controls to a certain degree, and whatnot. Whereas in the crypto world, I can start a meme coin. I can pump it. Doesn't necessarily mean I know what I'm doing or talking about.
Yeah.
I can have good social media skills and, get Carl Stefanovic, avatar, which is not him, promoting it. People jump on board because, they believe it and bang, they lose their money. So
we do a fool me twice crypto.
Fool me twice crypto, yeah.
Yeah.
That's got a bit of a ring.
Well, yeah, because, we must have so much credibility. Here we are.
I wouldn't recommend any crypto to any of my friends or anyone I care about.
No, it's not something I'm going to do. I noticed that about gambling very early in my life, that the only thing I tend to really ever gamble on is something I do. And although some people see gambling as an investment, what I wanted to say there was just on that thing about the share market being regulated. Now, every now and then somebody gets nailed. There's a little bit of insider trading. And because it's a rare occurrence, then logically people think, oh, well, thank God they caught that. But my understanding is it's like drugs. It's just a very small part of it.
Tip of the iceberg. Yeah. Absolute tip of the iceberg.
It's going on all the time. I think I might have mentioned this before. This guy took me to the races once and went to the Caulfield, and he was a member, and he couldn't get me into the members. So I hung outside in a general hoi polloi, and the betting ring, which is actually a fence rather than a ring, they're covered the general public on one side, but the same bookies were also taking bets from the members on the other side. Now, the members on the other side have all the connections. Yep. They're allowed to go down to the stables, look at the horses, talk to all the people, right? And so their bets are a little bit more educated than the bets coming from the public, because the public don't have the same amount of information.
You mean in the know, or
in the know, right?
But to a certain degree, I mean, I know people who own horses, they're trainers, strappers, owners, jockeys, and they can't even pick it.
I understand that, but it just on increment, it looks, if you put an overhead camera across that betting fence, it would look like over about 6 or 7 hours that poor people are handing money through the fence, and some of that's getting handed back to the rich people.
Just another wealth distribution scheme.
It is. And it's, again, it's not dishonesty, but it's based on people having privileged information, which is also one of the hallmarks of the investment and share industry. Anyway, I'm very cynical. I have no money to invest except in a beer.
Yeah, but I feel that I remember watching Seinfeld once. And as you know, I'm into my coffee. I'm very into my coffee.
You love your coffee.
I love my coffee. And, I remember watching Seinfeld saying, I have a coffee and this is what I enjoy. Sometimes it's the smallest things in life that make a difference. It might be a beer, it might be a coffee, but I think really in the modern day world of stress and all the stuff that, goes on and whatnot, I think, sometimes we got to smell the roses, drink the coffee or drink the beer and enjoy it, because we're not here a long time.
That's sound advice. I think I think just before I wrap that up, I think too that again, thank you to Isla Richards for the questions. I think if anybody has any schemes that they've been involved in, heard about, we'd love to hear about that, or any other points of deception. If you want to get in touch.
We've got a special topic next week. We won't release any details yet to keep our listeners and whatnot interested, but it'll be an interesting one. Interesting.
All right. Well, thanks, Steve. I'll see you next week.
All the best. Take care.
Bye-bye. I just want to say I hope there's a lot of criminals listening to this. You'll be picking up some good tips.